was speaking. And so for now, let's actually enter into a period of formal practice where we just put out the welcome mat for whatever arises and rest in silence. And rather than my guiding it, be guided by your own love affair with silence and with mindfulness and with practice and whatever it means to you. Just trusting that your intuition in terms of how to hold the present moment in this moment is completely appropriate. And that's what we're doing, of course, when we're not all together for the 1 hour a day that we are together. And so resting here in awareness and silence with things exactly as they are for you in this moment. We're not pushing anything away. We're not pursuing anything. We're simply apprehending the actuality of things. As if the mind were just a multidimensional mirror that was simply recognizing, reflecting, and understanding, grokking, we might say, everything that arises and passes away, and that we have room in our hearts, in our minds, in our awareness for all of it. And resting with a degree of equanimity. And perhaps the breath sensations can help stabilize any kind of gyrations in the mind that arise as storms or weather patterns or currents in the atmosphere of life unfolding and being met and being known in awareness right here, right now, in your body, wherever you are, however old you are or young you are. The truth and the actuality of your experience. Eyes open is fine. Eyes closed, also fine. If you're new to the practice and you sometimes have the thought, am I doing it right? If you're aware of what's going on, you're doing it right to a first approximation. So you don't need to worry about that. Just be aware of what's unfolding. That's always the meditative curriculum. That's always the human curriculum. No place to go, as I've been saying now forever. Nothing to do in this moment. And no special something that you're hunting for, pursuing, yearning for. This moment is special enough if we can be here for it. Is there an awareness of how it is in the body right in this moment? And can we befriend how it is in the body right in this moment, no matter how it is? Whether there's a sense of agitation or contraction or actual, severe discomfort or whatever it is, warmth, coolness, shaking, I mean, it could be anything. Can we simply be aware of how it is and invite it to be as it is, so that we're not judging it as good or bad or better or worse than, just part of the landscape, part of the weather patterns unfolding in the field of awareness at the level of this body, sitting here breathing. And by the same token, how is it right now in the heart? What is the feeling tone of right now? Is there a feeling of warmth, coldness or coolness, contraction, expansion? Just directly recognizing how it is, not so much thinking about it, feeling it. And noticing how whatever we mean when we say the word heart, that it's not separate from body. All feelings, emotions are expressed in the body. And when we can attend to them in the body, we have new degrees of freedom in how we're going to navigate that domain with what you might refer to as emotional intelligence, which always seems so easy to do when it's just us, although sometimes even that is turbulent. But just be in the presence of one other person who has a different opinion from you and see what happens. Even if you love that person. So working with these arisings is the kind of yoga of mindfulness practice, if you will. Not try to run away from any of it, but to really get in close and love the differences, just the way Rilke was pointing us to in that quotation from yesterday. Loving the distance that allows each of us to see the other whole against the sky. WHOLE. And how is it in the mind right in this moment? Can you drop underneath my words? Especially if you're finding my words intrusive or it's like more than you would bargain for. The invitation is always dropping underneath, because there's only silence here, even if I'm speaking. And we're not in the domain of more is better, less is better. It is as it is in this moment. How is it in your mind? If you want to call it yours, how is it in the mind? Turbulent, tranquil, lucid, opaque. Doesn't matter. The knowing is independent of the conditions. And it's the knowing where we can really reside in awareness and be that knowing. And not knowing, because it's not a mere conceptual knowing. And the body keeps us honest. The body grounds us. And there's no separation between what we call body, what we call heart, and what we call mind. It's just simply beyond words. Which is why poetry can be so valuable. And what if your life itself was poetry? Your loves, your relationships, your fears. And the silence, not only a refuge, but also a well or wellspring of wisdom and compassion. What if? What if? What is actually so? When we investigate, when we look deeply within and without, until there's no separation between the inner and outer. There's only this moment. This being human. The profundity of our interconnectedness. The profundity of our vulnerability. The profundity of our invulnerability. And the profundity of our love. It all matters. And it matters now more than ever. So as you care to, recognizing that it's now as it's been all along. Yes, I did ring some bells this time to signal the formal end of that guided period of meditation. It just seemed appropriate. But just to emphasize, the real meditation is life itself. And so there's no contrivance, there's no separation, and there's no time when it would be really great to be mindless or on autopilot. That doesn't mean you can't relax, have fun, just let loose, all of that kind of stuff. But uh, it's not necessarily wise to lose your mind just because we're under so much tension, lose your integrity or lose your ethical foundation when we're under so much tension. And believe me, we do that all the time when we get frightened, when we get stressed, when we're in a lot of pain. We're vulnerable to our own self-destructive or self-denigrating tendencies. So I want to welcome you all back for today. Don't forget that this is Thursday, so we will be at the end going into small groups for those of you who care to join us. And if you are on YouTube, you can join. We'll tell you how a little bit further down the road, how to join us. And I myself am finding these to be incredibly beautiful. I mean, with several thousand people, I mean, you're only going to get to meet 5 or 10 twice a week. So it's not a lot of people, but it's a hugely momentous from the point of view of human connection. I'm finding myself, I'm just so touched to have been in the room, quote unquote, with those of you with whom I've been in the room, in the small groups. So I just want to just loop back to what I started out saying at the beginning. Not sure how much of it was garbled, but just that how important taking care of the world for the children really is, and what the kind of calling might be for all of us post-pandemic, because there will be a post-pandemic, and we need to be very, very careful that it's not exploited. As is happening in my country, there are like major corporations that are pretending poverty and downloading millions of dollars from the government or billions because they figured out how. So completely unscrupulous, unethical. And there's an awful lot of that going on because whenever money is flowing, then how far away is greed rather than deep caring about the people who are suffering the most? And many of the people in my country, millions and millions of people who are out of work, but even all of, people who work for a salary very often have like only 3 or 4 weeks maximum of savings to hold them through a difficult time. And the wealth inequality in my country is just astonishingly unethical. It's just staggering. Doesn't have to be that way. And again, I've spoken before about if the heart decided that it wanted to take all the blood or the major amount of blood that itself was pumping and didn't leave any for the liver or the bones or any of the other tissues in our body, including the brain, how long would the body live? Not long. And it's the same with the body politic. And some of those contradictions, I think, are becoming evident in profound way in our different countries in different ways, but the suffering is in some sense the same. And so how can it not be part of the curriculum of meditative awareness? Because if we turn away from the suffering, or we get sort of into political ideology about who deserves and who doesn't deserve and how much, you know, it may be generating levels of delusion and ignorance and harm that are colossal. And so this is an opportunity for us to ask those kinds of deep questions, as long as we're going to throw trillions and trillions of dollars around to reboot what we call the economy. But there's also the economy of heart, and the economy of Indra's net, if you will, of the profound interconnectedness of all of us on this planet. And with the planet so threatened as it is for global warming, that's a whole other level of pandemic that we need to be facing. It's not going to be cured by a vaccine. So not to belabor the point or lose our sense of humor and of lightness of being and of the love affair that this is, but we have our work cut out for us in a way that's going to require some heavy lifting and some doing, and not just, you know, a kind of quietism that is sometimes associated with meditative awareness. There's nothing quietistic about wakefulness. It's appropriate to whatever is in our faces, whatever is arising, and how can we appropriately deal. And when it's time for us to do, then when the doing comes out of heartfulness and comes out of being, when it comes out of stillness, when it comes out of clarity, when it comes out of all those elements that we're cultivating day by day as we gather here, and discovering and uncovering and even recovering in ourselves, that's a form of intelligence and a form of power that is absolutely extraordinary. And it is a healing power. It is the healing power of mindfulness. And it's in every single one of us, not just us on this call, every human being. But it has to be discovered, uncovered, recovered. So we're going to now to, as we do every day, to dialogue in the form of questions that I will try to, and then we'll, very close to the hour, give you instructions for how we're going to work, dividing up into relatively small groups of approximately 7 or 8, to talk about how going for us in this endless, seemingly endless pandemic, and all of our situations being different. What is the commonality here that draws us all, and that allows us to draw strength on us, or you wouldn't keep coming back to what we are? And I've called it a love affair from the very beginning, and I really feel that it is. And it's way beyond several thousand people part of this conversation. There's so much of this going on now because it's not a luxury, it's an absolute necessity for us to. No one knows exactly what that means. So we have to be very inventive and experimental. And again, trust in the emergence of the young people to recognize that they need to have their future taken care of. And if we're not doing it, then they need to do it. Soren, over to you.
Great, thanks, Jon. Let's see if I'm on. So if you have a question, if you click participants, and at the very bottom, there's a way to raise your hand, and we will get to as many people as we can. And apologies that we can't get to everybody. You raise your hand, we will see you there, and then we can pick a name. I'm seeing Danielle. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your last name, Elisa, I believe. You are, let's see, give me 1 sec here. I believe you're unmuted. Can you say something?
Can you speak?
Oh, let's see. There we go. Now you should be able to talk.
Okay, perfect. Wow, I just I'm surprised. I just had the courage to raise my hand, and I am deeply touched by the support that we're giving one another. I have been battling a life-threatening illness for the last year, which really required me to sequester. I couldn't walk or speak at that time, and any outside stimulation would cause the cells in my body to react and cause some serious neurological reactions. So this has been a real blessing for me and all of us to be able to come together and heart to heart. And I just thank you both and hold you and everyone in this program deep in my heart. But the question I have is about grief and the realization that in every moment and in every breath, there's a coming and a going. And certainly right now in our lives, there's a lot that we're having to let go of. And I just would like you to talk about how we work with that and how we come to accept the things that life asks us to let go of.
Well, Danielle, that's a very profound question and very powerfully framed by you. And you know, there's not one simple answer that, like, you know, I just like, here's the key to that one, grief, human grief. And then, oh, thank you, because now I can kind of like make my way through it without paying such a high cost. Grief, there's a cost, but there's also a gift in grief. I mean, the grief is part of the love affair. It's the kind of longing or the yearning or the missing of, and the poignancy of something that was and isn't now, a loss, or, you know, can take a lot of different forms. And it has a lot of meaning and also added narratives to it that sometimes like compound the grief unnecessarily because the beauty sometimes gets ignored for the magnitude of the story about how awful it is. I can't help but noticing that you're framed by snow-covered mountains behind you.
Yes, I happen to live in the mountains of Lake Tahoe.
Okay, so, you know, those mountains, they have been there for unimaginable by humans eons, okay? Unimaginable eons. They've seen all of us come and go. They've seen long before there was a Lake Tahoe. And we turn, if you were to turn right now and gaze on them, which I'm sure you do quite often, they're holding down something, a reminder that we're here for a fraction of a second as human beings. I mean, a human lifetime, even if you are healthy through the whole of it, it's like that. And even multiple generations, humanity is, as we know it, has hardly been on the planet for, you know, sort of the blink of an eye compared to the geological time. And so when we can hold things in perspective, that in a certain way, we're blessed by any opportunity to have a body, even if it's like doesn't work right or things go wrong and medicine can't fix everything. And that's a huge one when we discover that, oh my God, what's all this about medicine and it can't fix everything. And even this pandemic, I mean, look how many incredibly brilliant people in laboratories are working day and night to try to come up with even understanding what the virus is doing, never mind how to develop an appropriate vaccine for it or find the right drugs to mitigate it or whatever. I mean, isolating like this, social isolation is the kind of the only thing we have, but it's not the high-tech solution to a pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's killing other aspects of our lives. So talk about the economy, but other aspects of our lives in ways that are horrible, and horrible for many people in ways that are not horrible for other people who tend to have to, just happen to be more privileged. But nobody's privileged, at least yet, although that it's not for lack of research in that domain, privileged to like live forever. We still all are subject to the same human mortality. And I think when we remember that, it puts grief into a kind of framework that allows us to dance with it, to love it, to experience the underlying sort of subterranean currents of it in ourselves that remind us of how meaningful it is to even be able to take one breath in and out, or to connect, make eye contact with a child or a grandchild or just anybody on the street. Not that we're, you know, doing that so much now. Now we are, but it's with masks on. So I don't want to go too deeply into sort of grief in generality, but really just ask you if you care to share in front of 1,000 intimate people that you don't know or more, where the concern is coming from in you. And maybe then perhaps we can drill down a little bit more specifically to where the question is coming from and what the potential um, insight might be.
To be honest, I don't, it isn't that I have a deep concern about it, because I've come to the point, much like you described, where this has taught me how to welcome grief and understand that it's a part of every breath. And I also do, and I've been a doula for end-of-life work for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And every one of the people I have sat at the bedside with has taught me many, many lessons. But the biggest thing that has come out of grief for me has been really that deep connection with awareness and nature, and the fact that it's always there for me. And
Here,
even in,
let's say it's always here for me rather
okay,
than there.
it's always here for me.
Good. I can
And
feel the difference
yeah, I can
in
too.
what you just said.
I can too. It is
Beautiful.
always here for me. And it really, it feels like that awareness, as well as the nature that surrounds me, can really hold anything that arises in my life, and allow or provide or allow for me the ability to kind of flow with whatever shows up. And
not resist grief.
exactly.
And of course,
Exactly.
you've put yourself in a position working with the dying people that, end of life care, that, you're around it a lot. And it is very poignant. And there's an enormous amount to learn. And the learning is very humbling because like we're all on the same trajectory. It's just a matter of
Absolutely.
time. And it's not like it's always painless, even physically, never mind emotionally.
Yeah.
So then this becomes the practice, is how to cultivate equanimity without dissociation, without othering or distancing people. I mean, and you wouldn't be able to do this work if you were doing anything like that. But those, impulses do arise from time to time in all of us that we just, because we don't want that for ourselves. And therefore we feel uncomfortable about it because we've got this fear that's in there that's, But once you make friends with the fear, then all of a sudden things could be very different. I just don't want this to sound too theoretical, because I'm talking about something that's really like, I don't know what to put it, but the kind of an ultimate tango with reality.
I think absolutely. And I really feel so much right now. I think maybe what prompted me to ask the question is I just feel the overwhelming grief of families that are not, as Soren said yesterday, he was not able to be there with his stepson as he went through surgery and with his family. He was sitting in his car, and that just brings tears to my eyes right now. There's so much suffering right now, and I guess I just want to know what is the best way we can support that. I have this sense that sitting in this practice, doing this, may be enough, or at least a good start.
Yeah, it looks a lot like nothing sitting in this practice, as you put it, but it turns out to be just about everything, because it's not just sitting.
Exactly.
And so it's life. And so basically it's then rising to the occasion in whatever way our heart tells us has integrity. And that may be, sort of providing resources to people who are less resourced, to the point where it might make us feel uncomfortable even. But whatever it is for every single one of us, it's like that impulse is one of recognizing that, if things were slightly different, the tables would be turned, and it would be, you could be there. And that this is happening in every single moment, not just with COVID, but COVID has brought it like into, and then the whole question of like, well, how much is this okay? Because it's preventing us from going back to eating in restaurants. And, we're going to have to sort of deal with this as a society, as a nation, the US, and also every nation that's facing this. And I really feel like you're tapping the deepest possible resources that we have, we all are, by trusting in our heart's recognition of what you just described in hearing what Soren was recounting, and, the poignancy of sitting in the car in the parking lot and not being able to be there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think you gave me the courage to take the next steps to do something.
Awesome. I mean, one of the things I said earlier, I don't remember, was in the guided meditation or afterwards, but that meditation is not about quietism, being quiet, sort of, and never doing anything. It's about living life as if it really, really, really mattered, with integrity and generosity, which means when the doing comes out of being, then there's a certain kind of signature to it and coherence to it that, I don't know what verb to use, but let's say drives the love in a way that is healing for others who are suffering. And so your being does all the work. And people, feel gratitude for the ways in which you've committed your life to that calling. And this is true for every single one of us, each in our own way. So I can't be you and you can't be me, but we can all be who we really, really, really are. And a lot of time we're not, because we get kind of lost in some Sargasso sea of our own fear and confusion. And this is a time to work with fear and confusion, not to turn away from it. Thanks a
I
lot,
agree.
Danielle. It's a
Thank you
real
so much.
pleasure to talk with you.
Deep, deep bows
And
to everyone.
all best wishes for healing in whatever ways that's possible.
Thank you so much.
Danielle. I'm seeing Pascal. Pascal, let's see. I think you're unmuted. If you say, pronounce your name correctly for us and say where you're coming from.
Yes, Pascal. I'm from France, somewhere in the middle of the country. I'm here for at least since the beginning, so and almost every day. So thanks, Jon and Soren, for this great opportunity every day. I wanted to come back to one point you have raised some days ago, Jon, when you said attachment is the biggest source of suffering. Actually, I have experienced it deeply in the past month. Well, I'm living alone now, and well, I was married before, and yes, so I was really happy while being married, and then when I got divorced, I have suffered a long time because I blame myself for many for being responsible for that. But now that I have no more attachment, I'm suffering also because of the lack of attachment, because of the lack of love. So one way or the other, I would say I'm suffering. So yes, today I would say I fear to be attached again because I fear to suffer again if it doesn't happen the way I would like it to happen in the future. So I don't know if it's clear, but I'd like to know how to handle with such situations.
Well, thank you so much, Pascal, for that question. And I, in turn, would really sort of question or sort of dive a little bit deeper into the question of attachment. And you're saying that you're not attached now, but you were before, and you're going to be attached again. It sounds like, I mean, this is the problem with words, is that you weren't quite understanding what I mean when I talk about attachment. I'm talking about a certain kind of clinging. This is actually the second noble truth. The first noble truth being the actuality of suffering or dukkha, and the cause, the ultimate cause of dukkha is spoken of as attachment or clinging. And that means a strong kind of self-identification with an object, a person, a condition, anything, where that then feeds the structure of your life and gives it meaning. And the problem isn't the connection or the relationship, it's the clinging. It's the self-identification of the attachment. So when, for those of us who are married and, living with the person that we are married to, it's a complex situation, right? Two people. And no matter how long you've been together or have children or whatever, it's like a laboratory for discovering how to be with another that one loves without clinging to having it be a certain way or forcing it to have it be a certain way. Then when you're alone, let's say in your case that you were married, now you're single and feeling alone, there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. So when we're if we don't like being alone, that's an attachment. So attachment can work both ways. It's like clinging, or the opposite, which is not wanting this thing to be the way it is. That's clinging to not wanting. And so you can't escape from this by trying to solve it as a problem in the kind of linear world of thought. And then your next relationship or your next marriage or whatever it is will solve that problem, because it will still be the same. It's not the relationships. That's how you are in relationship to everything, including your aloneness, which doesn't have to turn into loneliness, but of course it can, and it's fine if it does too, because you can hold even loneliness in awareness, but also being with another person, you can either have it be still have loneliness within a relationship, or you can have, you know, deep caring and passion or whatever, but they're all challenging if you self-identify too much with it. And that's where the suffering is coming from. That's where the dukkha is coming from, is the clinging, the self-identification. So again, I've said it a number of times, but this is kind of like, it's not like, oh, that's bad that we are clinging. No, it's the realization that we're clinging is the first step to letting go, which doesn't mean pushing away. It means letting be. We're just like opening to it. And so if you're alone at the moment and feeling lonely, then you embrace being alone and feeling lonely. And then you can ask yourself, is my awareness of feeling lonely, which is really a feeling, is my awareness lonely? Right in this moment, not in philosophical terms, right in this moment, in my own house, am I lonely, or am I just alone? And to be alone with oneself, whether you're in a fantastic number of different kinds of relationships or not, is a gift. I mean, to be alone and awake. And then you realize like you're never alone. I mean, even if you're isolated for a particular period of time, you're profoundly interconnected through the past, through the potential future, through, you know, all sorts of relationships with nature, with the air. So it all hinges around your understanding of clinging. And I think I said a number of days ago that the sixth Zen patriarch, patriarch Wei Neng, from, you know, 7th century China, I think it was, when he was young and just the rice pounder, the lowest person on the totem pole in some Chan monastery in China, he heard one line of the Diamond Sutra as he was walking by the kitchen window, and a monk was chanting one line, and the line was, develop a mind that clings to nothing. Actually, it was said in Chinese, so I can't verify that that's exactly the best translation, but that's the translation that I read. Develop a mind that clings to nothing. And it said that just that one sentence, like, oriented his life for the rest of his life to the love affair of wakefulness. Okay, but we have to understand what the verb to cling means. Qu'est-ce que c'est en français?
I don't know exactly. I will look for. I will check.
Does anybody else know? I mean, to cling is the s'accrocher?
S'accrocher, yes. I think that's the word. Yeah.
What that does that have the sense to would a monkey s'accroche on a tree branch?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That's the example. It's the attachment that's the problem. So just because we've had this little moment, I'll stop very shortly because I know it's the top of the hour.
Mhm.
But you know about s'accrocher.
Yes.
So it's said that there's kind of like, speaking of monkeys, that in India, they developed the trap for catching monkeys. And the way they did it, they took a coconut and they tied it to the base of a tree with some wire so that you couldn't take it away. And they opened up the one end of the coconut so that it was just a big enough hole for a monkey to put his or her hand through, but not big enough to pull the fist out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would put a banana inside the coconut and then go away. And they say that this is how they could trap monkeys. And why? Because all the monkey has to do is let go of the banana and the monkey is free. I don't know if this is true or not, but they say that the monkey will not let go of the banana. So a fist won't come out of the prison of the coconut. And sometimes we do the same thing. That's what the accroché is all about. That's what the grasping and the clinging is all about, is the solution is right here in the fist, right here, and like holding it like this instead of like this. So I don't know if that's meaningful to you or not, but I really
Yes, I understand.
appreciate you asking this question, because we're all suffering from tremendous loneliness. And the pandemic and the fact that we have to be sequestered like this, even if we're with other people, it's generating a lot of challenges along those lines. But the most important thing, excuse me, is if fundamentally we're lonely for ourselves, that we miss ourselves.
Mm.
And that's part of the potential for mindfulness to bring you back to yourself. And
Okay.
that poem that I spoke of, you know, a number of weeks ago about called Love After Love by Derek Walcott, that says,
Mhm.
the time will come when with elation you'll greet yourself arriving at your own door. So I hope that's been helpful. Keep up
Yeah.
the practice.
Sorry.
Keep up the practice.
Yeah, I will. It helps.
What's that?
It helps. The practice really helps, and I feel I'm on the right way, right direction at the moment. So I'm
I'm
optimistic.
really glad you got recognized here, because you know you're actually with 1,000 people at the moment.
Yes.
So it would be a really interesting question to ask yourself, what does it mean to be alone and lonely if 1,000 people are carrying you in their hearts right in this moment?
Mm.
And I
Okay.
certainly feel like I can feel a profound connection with you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Merci bien. Et
Merci.
bonne nuit.
See you. Thank you.
See you. Soren.
So John, I think the plan